Hey everybody, this is David Lowry with Club Fantasci, and I am joined today by Ed Teixeira of 2 Hour Wargames, and we're going to be talking about a couple new releases he's got coming up with L&L Publishing. Welcome to the show, Ed.
Wait. It's Teixeira, the hard X.
Sarah? Sorry.
I don't make baseball money. No problem.
I think it must be that MMA fighter I hear about all the time. That's how he pronounces his name.
Yeah, and the baseball player.
Yeah, exactly. All right, anyway, apologize for that. We are here talking about some new upcoming releases you got. Before we do that, why don't you give us a quick 2-minute plug about 2 Hour Wargames and what it's all about?
Well, we make entertaining games playable in 2 hours or less. I thought long and hard about what the name of the company, and I realized that if you get a certain time in your life, you have a couple hours to do things. So that's what I wanted to go ahead and bring that to people's attention. Games are played 2 hours or less usually. Been doing this since '98 in real obscurity until 2006 when my game All Things Zombie won an Origins Award for Best Miniature Game, which really came out of nowhere, which was great. Since then, published 45 titles, have about 7 other authors that work with me, a couple of artists, sculptors. It's become a real big business now. Not big as in size, but it's my full-time job. So I get a chance to deal more with the people and get a chance to answer questions on the Yahoo groups and the forums. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of pretty blessed being able to do what I want to do for a living. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Now, recently you've announced that you're started a new relationship with, well, I shouldn't say new, but a different relationship with L&L Publishing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I did All Things Zombie before with L&L, and I was lucky enough to have another chance to go ahead and do some more games for them. So the new owner, David, we decided to work things out, and the plans are to take all the 2 Hour Wargame games and make them into board games, which is, I'm really looking forward to it because there's a lot of good things about board games that I want to bring over into the miniature side of gaming, and then also some of the things from the miniature side to the board games. So I'm looking forward to it. And the first one's called Heroes of the Coliseum. It's a combination of gladiator fighting and chariot racing. It takes the high points of each genre and then really focuses on that. We're more of a, how do I put this, more of a results-driven game. A lot of time you have a lot of bookkeeping to catch up on. And well, here's a good example. In the chariot race, most games where you have racing or chariots, stuff like that, whether it's cars or anything, you run around a track and you're slowly spreading out, and the guys in the back are kind of really out of the race and they're not going to catch up, so maybe they're banging each other around and that kind of stuff, but they kind of lose the interest in the game. So what we've done, we concentrate on the pack. So instead of all the chariots going around, the pack goes around, and you're never any farther back than maybe 7th or 8th place. So your relationship to each chariot in the pack is what you're concentrating on. So every turn, you're involved. Something's always going on. Maybe somebody's rolling backwards. Maybe somebody's going to bash into you. But there's always a chance that you can go from last to first. So it kind of keeps everybody in the game. So that's a little bit different. So like I said, we want to do results-driven games. So not a lot of, like I said, bookkeeping. So more like think of it as a movie. The action scene, bam, new scene, new scene, new scene.
Now, a while back we had a chance to meet in Colorado at a summit at L&L Publishing, and I got to demo this game a little bit. How much different is it now than it was then? Is there a lot of changes besides adding the chariots to it, or is it pretty much the same game?
It's been cleaned up a little bit. I thought it was pretty much where I wanted it to be, and then I had a chance to play test it really significantly with a bunch of brand new people out in Millennium Con in Texas a couple of months back. And they had some great questions, they had some great ideas, and so maybe the last 2 or 3% of what needed to be done has been taken care of. It's a little streamlined, a little quicker, but it is real similar and basic to what you demonstrated out there or played out in October. The chariot racing game, you guys didn't have a chance to really do that, but that's pretty much true to form.
Now, with this particular type of game, what sets it apart from other gladiator type games that have been put out recently?
I can't speak to other games because I don't usually game other games just to keep all my ideas not necessarily fresh, but unbiased. But the nice thing about it is, like all my games, it's solo or same-side friendly, and it's designed to be played solo, and it's designed to be played where you can play with your friend, teach them the game, and play with you. A lot of games, almost any game, can be played solo. A lot of times it's just flipping cards, or you make the best decision for that person. which is really nice. But the artificial intelligence in the game really will give you an opponent that'll react in a true-to-life, realistic way. So you do something, they do something in reaction, and vice versa. That's the biggest thing about it, that you can play solo if you needed to. And it's also, again, not a lot of bookkeeping, and it's a great intro game with simple mechanics, but it takes a while to master. So you're not, stuck looking through rules and that kind of stuff. Once you get how to do it, it's just a matter of figuring out the best way to do it.
Now, when we played this last time, it looked like there was a bunch of different arenas and different things like that where you could actually set it up where you could either have a tournament or a series of tournaments, I guess it should say, over a period of time. Is it still set up that way?
Yeah, it is. Everybody has a little faction they run with multiple gladiators, 1 to 4 gladiators that they choose with different styles. So you've got the 6 classic styles of gladiators, and you can design your characters. You can have your star, which represents you, and then your grunts, which we call non-player characters. And then you go ahead and do a day of events. So you're fighting different opponents from different players, and they can pick which gladiator they want to put in there. You can go through the locale. You start on the fringe of the empire. You work your way to the heart of the empire. Then you work your way, ideally, to the Colosseum in Rome, where you can go ahead and get freedom. So it's a campaign, and it really rewards good tactics. And as you do good, you go up, and as you do bad, you go off to the edges of the world and disappear.
So, what kind of gamer does Heroes of the Colosseum really cater to, would you say?
Not the crunchy guy, not the guy that wants to know exactly every little tiny detail. There is detail. I mean, there are, like, for example, body parts in the gladiator. Okay, if you get hit in the arm, you take wounds. If you get hit enough, it becomes useless, and so now you have to switch weapons to another hand. So that is there. As you take a body hit, it reduces your overall ability to keep fighting and your strength. But you've got to be able to think quickly. It's not with the whole reaction thing. You're pretty much, you do something, I do something back. So you kind of plan a little bit ahead of what's going to happen if this occurs. What are you going to do? And you can build your characters too. You can with different attributes. They can be a variety of things. You make them quicker, speed-wise. You can make them tougher when they're brawling. There's a good variety. It's almost, I don't want to say role-playing, but you really get immersed in the game. You take on the persona of that character, and he takes it on of you. So if you're a guy that likes to be a little more calculating, maybe you'll go ahead and spend extra points to make your savvy higher, which is how well you fight. Or maybe you want to go for speed or strength. So it's kind of a immersion. You're really into the game. You're taking on the persona of the characters.
Now, last time we looked at this, I remember it plays. I think we had 4 people playing the game at the same time, so it was 4 gladiators in the arena at the same time. Is that still the case? Does it play well? If that's not, or I should say, does it play well as a 2-player? And then also, is there any way for it to be maybe 1 against 3, or a team against 1 kind of deal?
Oh, definitely. Like I mentioned before, we play tested it again out in Millennium Con, and it started with 4 people. They were all independent of what they wanted to do, and it seemed like every time somebody had a disadvantage, they would all gang up on that guy. So you could play 1 against 1. You could play teams. We played where the 2 teams will fight, and until one team's completely eliminated, the guys on the same team can't fight. But you always want to get down to the last winner. So it works quite a bit, quite well actually.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how the combat system works in this game?
Okay, you roll to see who goes first based on your speed, and then you have, when you activate, you go to the maneuver table. What you're doing, you're sizing up your opponent, looking for an opening to go ahead and make an attack. This can result in either you making an attack and getting an advantage, or just making a straight attack, or not finding an opening at all, in which case you can't find an opening to attack, your turn's over, goes to the next person. So let's say you did find an opening, and you got into the attack. You go to the attack table, based on your strength and your savvy, how well you fight, you roll 6-sided dice. What you're always looking for is successes, a score of 1, 2, 3. So whoever scores the most successes, obviously wins. Okay, starts moving up and has a chance to do damage. Now people think, it's all about luck. Well, it's not, because you have bonus dice. You have a certain amount to start with, and then as you use them, you burn them. You can use them anytime you want to, You can also replenish them by backing out of combat if the other guy will let you, and get some more bonus dice. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I'll just use them all at once. And that happened a couple of times where the guy would have, for example, 8 bonus dice, threw them all in, and off he went. And he didn't do as well as he hoped he would have, while his opponent only used 1 or 2. Because all you have to do is beat the guy by 1 to actually gain an advantage or to do damage. So, yes, there's luck involved, like in anything, but like you need to know how to use your resources. It's really resource management. You know, when to use it, when not to use it. Personally, and it's not saying it's a great idea, but personally, I don't use it on the movement table because I don't care if I'm the attacker. I'm just gambling that I'll use it on the attacker table to flip it and take advantage of the opponent and become the attacker. So that's pretty much, you know, resource management is the key.
Sounds a little bit different from the what I would have thought of for a combat game. So, do we have any kind of idea when we're going to see this released to the public?
You know, the living rules are on the LNL site, and the counters, I believe, were being worked on. So I would guess probably February, March, pre-order, and maybe actual release sometime a little bit after.
Very good. Now, earlier you also mentioned that you had done All Things Zombie, which was a 2006 Origins Award-winning miniatures game. Here is the original game from LNL Publishing, and so you've got some things coming up with this. Why don't you tell us what's going on with All Things Zombie now?
Yeah, what we're doing is it's a new game. It's adding some new maps, adding some new counters. The nice thing about it, if you already have the game, you can still go ahead and make it work. But it's going to be more true to the 2006 Origins Award-winning game. The mechanics will be playing a little bit similar to what they are. They're a little bit smoother. The campaign is a little bit more defined. Now there's a reason to do these things. Instead of saying, okay, here's your scenario, oh, you've done the scenario, now it's, here's your guy, recruit some other non-players, this is one of the scenarios, one of the missions, go accomplish that, see if you got better, see if your guys got better. You have to collect, for example, food. It's based on a monthly campaign. If you want to play the campaign, you can always play it one-off, but if you want to play the campaign, you have to find food. So first order thing is to go out and find some food. And then you burn one thing of food every month. You find different weapons, you find luxury items, you find a variety of things. Maybe your first one might be go out and just explore. Then you go to take back some area, so you make yourself a home base. Or you run into other non-player members, like gang members or survivors. That was really one of the major changes in the game. There's more interaction between the people, because in a good zombie game, you know, there's zombies. But in a great zombie game, it's all about how the people deal with the zombies. I've run this game in the miniature form probably 20 to 40 times over the last 10 years. Nobody gets killed by zombies, man. You know, every time you play the game, somebody ends up shooting somebody else. So, you know, it's just, I'm not sure if it's human nature or what it is, but that's pretty much it. And we wanted to get that feeling in here. Another thing we have is a thing called a chilling encounter. It's not all about shooting people up. Sometimes it's about meeting other people, bartering with them. I'll trade you this for that. Maybe you want to join my gang. Maybe I'll join your gang just for this game. So we've got it where you can interact with the non-players in addition to the players. So I can go ahead and, let's say I flip a card and meet so-and-so. He's got something to trade for me. You know, so there's more interaction between it. Because again, killing zombies is okay, but killing zombies gets old after a while. So you got to put a little bit more story into it, more reasons behind what's going on. And that's what we've tried to do, and I think we've done a real good job of it.
Well, I know when I played this originally, and for those who were watching, there is a review of this game on our website at clubfantasy.com. Just look up All Things Zombie. You know, I played this, and I'd run it as solo, and I'd run it with other players. But then when we did it your way at the summit out in Colorado, it felt like, I guess what you would call, a more immersive experience where we were actually, I don't know, even in an episode of The Walking Dead, there was things going on besides us running from a horde of zombies, which really added to that experience, added a lot of more of that interaction you're talking about. So from my personal experience, I would have to agree that it really brought out a lot of characteristics that weren't sitting in necessarily in this version of it. And I guess that brings it back more towards the original 2006 implementation of the game without the miniatures. Is that correct?
That and the advancement in the mechanics. I've got a large following of people that play all things zombie a lot. And being in constant contact with them, I will go ahead and get, hey, how about this, how about that? And going around the country and playing different games, you see little things and you go, hey, this would be the easy way to do things. So this is what we call the final version mechanics that all the 2-hour war game stuff is being run on. It's really smooth, and I'm looking for a game that helps you tell the story and not necessarily dictate it to you. Okay, I want you to be able to do things that you want to do and not have to be handicapped by game mechanics or a lot of time, spent looking at rules. People will say, ooh, 2-hour war games, a lot of tables. And you're right, there are a lot of tables, but here's why. Because we make a very, very good solo game that can be played head-to-head. So with a solo game, you've got a bit of different tables that use different tools. So like we say, it's a toolbox, and the tools are there, you may not need them. When you come down to actual gameplay, you're looking at maybe 3 or 4 tables tops. And after about 4 or 5 turns, you don't even refer to the tables anymore. That was one thing that was really nice about running games and conventions. I'd run 20 people in a game, and they'd go, you're crazy. But you know what? After 4 turns, they're going, oh yeah, I rolled. Boom, okay, I scored a 7. No, I missed. I rolled a 10. Oh, I scored a hit. Or I passed 1 die. I passed 2 die. I rolled my rep or less. We try to make the mechanics friendly, so you can go ahead and play the game. Because a lot of times you're playing against the game, but not in a good way.
Now, one of the interesting things I find is the title of your company, which is 2-hour war games. And most of us who are gamers don't think of war games ever being 2 hours or under. We always think of massive 6-hour expeditions on our tables and things like that. What was the thought of trying to get something that would be considered a strategic as war games into 2 hours or less?
Well, we've really got a niche in the skirmish gaming, okay? Almost any game you play, your maximum you would probably be able to run comfortably is 12 units or 12 figures or 12, we like to call them decision makers, okay? If you've got to do more than 12 decisions on a turn, the game's going to bog down. A lot of the older games, I've played for a long time, more than I'd rather. How long? Whoa, just a long time, leave it at that. But, the older games where you'd have 20 or 30 units on a side, you're going from left to right, it takes forever. What I want to do is get a game that you could, get involved in. So I went with skirmish, so it's mostly skirmish. And then you don't have a lot of things to concentrate on, just a few things that make mechanics friendly. A lot of times people will play a lot quicker than 2 hours. For example, if you're playing, Six Gun Sound, the cowboy game, right, where you're a sheriff and you have some deputies or you're an outlaw, whatever, they'll play 4 games all in a 2-hour period. You don't have to set up all this massive terrain because it's all about the characters. It's not about, ooh, look at that cool house or building. That adds to it, but it's about the characters and how they interact and how they solve whatever they need to be solving. So to call it, people will say that they'll say 2-hour war games. Yeah, it's not exactly war games, and it really has changed since my first few sets of rules. Had one guy contact about the larger than life, which actually is coming up as an update in a couple of months. He said, you know what? This is a great pulp game. I never would have thought a war gaming company would have made that. And I realized most of my stuff is not the traditional war games anymore. They're the military games, but there's also science fiction, there's fantasies, a bunch of things. So much that we've decided to slowly roll the name of the company over THW Game Design because we do cover quite a bit.
So we're not looking at just military conquest type games anymore. You're trying to cover the whole gamut. And where do you find your inspiration for all these different styles of games?
Well, the nice thing is the mechanics are similar, so it's not a real reach. Okay, they're not the same. But if you played Nuts, the World War II game, you could play all things zombie. You could play Warrior Heroes Legends, the fantasy version, because you go, okay, I passed 2 dice, passed 1 dice. It's similar mechanics. It's like all cards have engines, and that's what you could really relate this to. The engine is the same all the way through, but they definitely have the bells and whistles that make you feel the time period that you're playing. where it comes from, inspiration comes from different places. I never wanted to do World War II at all, ever. That was hard and fast. I'll never do World War II. It's not a real thing I'm into. Then I saw the Band of Brothers, and I could relate to that because I thought, okay, it's just really people, people in situations. And so that's why I ended up doing Nuts, which got nominated for an Origins Award, but still, it's more of the people thing I'm looking for. People, so you can relate to your characters, whether you're the general, like to rally around the king, or if you're just like a private investigator in New Hope City, on the 5150 private investigators rules. So it's comes from all over, the inspiration. It's not going to have, it comes from all over. I made a horse race game. I think I sold 8, but it's a great horse race game. But I was watching the Kentucky Derby one day and, just wanted to do it. And then people come up to me, a lot of the authors will say, I got a great idea. For example, Weird War II. John Cunningham, he came up with that. He wanted to do it. It's like after 45 with the robots and all that kind of stuff. So it's just whatever strikes my fancy.
Now, why don't you let the people know how they can go about finding out more about THW Games Design, where they can find you, and what you might have coming out on the horizon.
Oh, we have, we're on Facebook, 2 Hour Wargames. We're on our own website, 2hourwargames.com. The easiest way to find it is type in all things zombie in any search engine you got. It'll lead you right back to us. I'm pretty fortunate that way. I have a blog, 2 Hour Blogspot, and then also on Lock and Load on the LNL site. There's a little section called THW Game Design, and that's going to be a good place to go to because we're putting more and more into that.
Now, if I remember right, there was talk of you have like 50-some titles with THW, and Lock and Load is looking at picking that up. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to take a few years, but all of them. Of course, we're going to do the more popular ones first and see how that works out, and then as slowly as we start converting them over, they'll be just all under Lock and Load eventually. And then there's also new ones coming out all the time. I'm pretty lucky. There's a new scenario book coming out for Nuts that covers Italy. There's also, like I mentioned earlier, Larger Than Life Director's Cut, which is Pulps. We just finished putting out 2 Hour Dungeon Crawl, which is kind of an old school throwback dungeon crawl. We can use graph paper, metal tiles, paper tiles. Just play the game. That's what we like to say. Just play the game. People sometimes get intimidated. Well, I can't paint very well and my figures don't look good. Push counters around, play with pennies and nickels. It doesn't matter. Just play the game.
It's an interesting point. In today's world where board games are coming out at last year at Essen, there were 7,000 games, if I remember right, that came out. And Chrome is such an important part of gaming now. How do you think the public can relate to going back to old school stuff like that, where it is just graph paper, maybe they're using coins for pieces or whatever? How does a company get that product to people and still make them interested in it when it doesn't have all the Chrome?
Well, there's going to be some people that just are Chrome driven anyway, and I understand that, and that's totally cool. But there's a lot of games I perceive as, does the Chrome really matter? I mean, that's kind of a call on their own person if they really like it. I think it all comes down to gameplay. If the gameplay is good, it doesn't matter if you got the Chrome or not. The key though is trying to get people to play it. So that's why I go to conventions, and they'll say, well, I can use any figures I want. Yeah, any figures you want. Well, what about the official figures? No, there's no official figures. There's a difference between gaming and wanting to game. I'd rather have people just game whatever they have instead of having to, spend time painting or find something. And like with board games, this is great for me because this is all new. I mean, with the counters and the cards and stuff, it makes my games come to life in ways you can't do it by strictly miniatures. And it's going to broaden the audience too, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, whatever it takes, just play the game.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Talk about everything that's coming up. So, folks, if you're paying attention, definitely look out for Heroes of the Coliseum coming up from LNL Publishing and 2 Hour Wargames soon on the horizon. And All Things Zombie, and I forgot the second half of that title. What was the second half of that title?
Reloaded.
Reloaded. There it is.
Reloaded. Yeah, we had a couple of false starts, but that's what we've decided on. So all things on Reloaded.
All that should be out. Right now, I think you can go to lnlpublishing.com and look this up and get some ideas on it as to whether or not it's something you might be interested in until the new information comes out. But again, Ed, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon when there's more updates.
All righty, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching Club Fantasci. I am David Lowry. We look forward to bringing you more content all the time. Please join us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and spread the word. Have a great day.